we had 798.1 billion shillings. And as of the coming year, it is 80,774.8 billion. That is a high rise in debt. This translates into increase of 2.5% points. And out of this, 47,764.5 billion, equivalent to 12.85 billion US dollars, is external debt, while 33,014.6 billion shillings is domestic debt. Whereas currently Uganda's external debt is largely concessional.
The external is at 59.1 and the other one is at 49.9%.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable. So the weight external is more, but domestic is also quite high. Whereas currently Uganda's external debt is largely concessional, that is cheaper debt. So as of now, it's about 75%. The share of non-concessional debt is on the rise. That means the lenders are tightening the lending policies and reviewing terms. So if we are to borrow now, we are most likely going to borrow at a very high interest rate. And that will raise our interest. And we have to be very cautious as a country to maintain a favorable debt interest ratio to tax. By the end of December 2022, the share of non-concessional debt had increased from 21.9% recorded in June 2022 to 25%. The rise in the share is most attributed to the growth in the interest rates in the London Interbank Offered Rate and the Euro Bank Interbank Offered Rate, resulting in two loans that were previously semi-concessional to becoming non-concessional. So there is bad news here. Public debt service. How are we servicing our debt? Public debt service involves any financial operations related to repayment of the principal, interest, commissions, and commitment fees, service charges, and other fees, interest payments where applicable. Debt service obligations approved for 2022-23 amounted to 15,005.5 billion Uganda shillings. But by the end of the first half in December, a total of 60,596.7 billion had been spent, translating it to 44%. Debt sustainability. This is measuring how stressed we are. The committee observed that the debt sustainability analysis for financial year 2021-20 revealed that Uganda's overall risk of debt distress has remained moderate, although with limited fiscal space for absorption of any extreme shock occurrence. So we must pray seriously not to have these other bad things happening, weather, and then international shocks. Consequently, whereas Uganda's public debt is still sustainable in the medium term, if not well checked, the long term will become a very heavy burden. The committee therefore recommends the following as far as that threat is concerned. Government should be committed to fiscal discipline to minimize deviations from the projected paths set. To this end, government should ensure that over the medium term, borrowing is limited to critical projects while minimizing acquisition of debt on non-concessional terms. So our negotiators must step up their act so that if we borrow only on concessional. And if we are investing, we must invest where productivity, and we must ensure there is value addition so that we earn our own money. not investing, borrowing and investing anyhow. So we have to be very conscious while investing. Half-year revenue performance. Right, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, cumulative collections for the half-year for 22-23 amounted to 11,670.03 billion shillings against a projection of 11,764.83 billion Uganda shillings. This registering a deficit of 94.8 billion Uganda shillings. Income taxes. This includes taxes on employment income, business income, property income. Revenue collections for the period under review amounted to 3,989.33 billion shillings against a projection of 3,904.59 billion, registering a surplus of 84.74 billion. That's good news. Major surpluses were registered in pay, casino tax. These people of ours who go to casino, they are very good. Rental tax, those houses, but here URI has to step action so that all property taxes are collected, and tax on the banker interest with huge amounts of money. Corporation tax also registered a good amount of 59.08 billion, and the treasury bills registered 39.31. The performance, the good performance is mainly attributed to the following. The 225.85 billion surplus on pay was on account of payment of bonuses and higher salaries in the private sector. Rebound of private sector activities after COVID pandemic, which registered a surplus of 248.35 billion. This led to an increase in the private sector contribution from previous period by 27.9. I think we should be celebrating that our private sector is picking up. The Uganda shillings 59.08 billion shortfall on corporate income tax is attributed to lower level of profitability in transport, storage, communication activities as a result of various economic shocks, including higher inflation, depressed demand, that have negatively affected the enterprises. So we are aware some of these shocks raised cost of production, and again, the demand had fallen due to pockets. And interest rates had also gone high. So the companies were registering losses. But also the committee also observed that some of these are effect of government not paying the suppliers. So the committee recommended government must fast track a payment of arrears in order not to cripple our private sector. International trade taxes. During the first half, international trade tax collections amounted to 4,444.84 billion, registering a deficit of 114.04 billion against a projected 4,558.88 billion. On a year-on-year basis, international revenue collection registered a growth of 9.18%, or by 373.85 billion compared to the previous period. Major deficits were registered in VAT on imported salt, imported iron, steel, imported vehicle and spare parts, petroleum duty on diesel, excise duty on undenatured ethylene alcohol, withholding tax on vehicles and spare parts, infrastructure levy, and export levy on fish moles. While major surplus were registered under import duty and surcharge on imports. This performance on account of the following. Colleagues, you will read that part in the interest of time. Would now like to go, colleagues, straight to the budget. The budget for the coming financial year, that is on page 44. Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, to avoid repetition, the Minister presented part of this report. And I think colleagues noted that. The theme was presented here by the Minister, and he presented the priorities. So I would not like to repeat. Priorities for the coming year were presented. I only confirm that the total envelope, the resource envelope, is 52.74 trillion, up from 48.13 trillion. So in terms, you realize that the budget has grown. However, this growth is not all that going to raise the discretionary expenditure. Most of the money on this envelope is the fixed monies because of the restrictions where government has put in place. Honorable colleagues, some of these monies, for example, budget support, grants and loans are fixed for particular projects. Others, like domestic debt, refinancing, rollover. The rollover automatically offsets itself in expenditure, so you cannot spend it in other activities. We have also realized one of the issues, we have to recapitalize Bank of Uganda. And that's what has reduced some of the issues, reducing the discretionary expenditure. Bank of Uganda has to be recapitalized by 217.3 billion Uganda shillings. That's 217 trillion. 217 billion. Recapitalization of Bank of Uganda has been found very important because it's impaired to a tune that we must put it back to its normal efficiency. The impairment here means a level at which damage is starting to occur in the bank. And yet this is the bank which helps us a lot in management of the economic trends, controlling inflation, controlling debt, and so on. Other things, Bank of Uganda reimbursement must be fast-tracked. The committee learned that government has a debt with the Bank of Uganda amounting around 3 trillion shillings. So an agreement was made that this can lead to the bank getting lame and disabled. So this payment must be fast-tracked, and it must be fast-tracked within these 2 financial years. So government,
What procedure do you have? Yes, Helen.
Right Honourable Speaker, I'm really sorry that I'm putting my own brother on order. How can you call a budget to be lame and disabled? I think that makes us become useless. So when you say it is lame, you use a better word that maybe it will not be managing to fulfill other issues.
It did not mean a person, it meant a budget.
When you use Right Honourable Speaker, when you use these words, you have to be very careful. Because some people, you know, there's a Chini Chebe says, when you mention old bones, the old people begin thinking it is them. So I think the chairman could withdraw.
Chair,
thank you.
Chair, maybe use a better word.
Okay, I apologize to my daughter. The word, okay, let's use that one, impaired. But when you go to
Chair, can we move on? Once it is impaired, it is impaired. You can't.
Right Honourable, government has gone strictly and agreed to clear Bank of Uganda's debt within these 2 financial years, each financial year paying 1.25, and also ensuring that more debt is not created. So as you pay, the residue has to be tracked seriously. So our Committee of Finance and Budget will be monitoring seriously this movement. Colleagues, the interests have grown, interest to debt. So this also eaten up on our money. And then domestic refinancing. So those are the issues which has reduced discretionary expenditure as compared to last financial year. Last financial year is going to look to have been better with discretionary expenditure than this financial year because of some of those fixed commitments. Colleagues, the committee scrutinized this issue and found that there is something missing as far as state-owned enterprises and public corporations in fulfilling the requirement of Public Finance Acts, where their budgets and accounts must be presented to the Parliament. So we have on part 1, those state enterprises that submitted, including Civil Aviation Authority, around 31 of them. And when you see the next ones, those ones have not submitted. So they always avoid. The committee recommends that all state enterprises, corporations, commissions must submit their budgets to the House and be scrutinized. Their sources of revenue, their expenditures, and surplus where there is, so that we are in very update.
Yes, procedure from
Madam Speaker, Rule 83C, Rule 83B. A member shall not cross the floor of the House or move around unnecessarily. I don't know what is troubling Honorable Musasizi. You bring your budget, it is being processed, you are walking around as if you are grazing. Is the Honorable Musasizi in proceeding well, Madam Speaker, by refusing to sit to listen to a report on his own budget and unnecessarily moving from here and there?
First of all, he knows the contents of his budget. And secondly, I gave him permission to move around.
Right, Honorable. Domestic areas, I discussed that.
Actually, it is free sitting. Honorable Musasizi can even sit next to Law. There is no problem.
Right, Honorable. We go to part B of the report. That's the reconciliation and harmonization of the estimates to as per. That's on page 54. That is the reconciliation of recommendations that were submitted to the committee by the floor arising out of recommendations by the sector committees. We were able, therefore, to capture not all, but the amount was about 17 trillion, and we looked at priorities upon priorities and captured those priorities that the committee would like to recommend the House to approve, because if not done, it can lead to some consequences and the loss of growth in the economy. So, Right Honorable, that is captured under from page 54 up to page 85. Colleagues can read that. Other committee observations, Right Honorable. On submission of the Thank you. See, this microphone is the light is hidden. On scrutiny of the Kurugenda, it was observed that 7 billion shillings had been provided to support private entities in vaccines and pharmaceutical manufacturing. 70 billion shillings by private entities in vaccines and pharmaceutical manufacturing under Vote 167, Science, Technology and Innovation. The Corrigenda had come requiring this purpose of this money to be changed for only pharmaceutical manufacturing. The committee recommended that the purpose of this money should remain the same, so that both vaccines and pharmaceuticals, innovations, and all manufacturing can take place. So the committee recommended no amendment on that. Right Honorable, on page 86, those are figures recommended for supply. Right Honorable Speaker and members, arising from all the adjustments, the following figures in the table below are recommended for supply and appropriation as expenditure for financial year 23-24. The table is a consolidation on Schedule A, B, C, and it also has annexures. Expenditure category is the heading and the amounts. Table A shows central government's recurrent expenditure, referral hospitals, foreign missions, and local governments.
Chair, can you give us the figures? Central government, 12 referrals. That's summary.
Central government, 12 trillion. I beg your pardon, Right Honorable, the figures have 000. I think it's okay. 12 trillion, 205 billion, 794 million, 287,000 Uganda shillings. That's for central government votes. Referral hospitals, 282 billion, 242 million, 229,000 Uganda shillings. Foreign missions, 189 billion, 698 million, 845,000 Uganda shillings. Local governments, 4 trillion, 154 billion, 732 million, 317,000. A total recurrent budget expenditure for all votes here, 16 trillion, 832 billion, 467 million, and 678,000. Development expenditure, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, central government, 13 trillion, 223 billion, 122 million, 671,000 Uganda shillings. Referral hospitals, development expenditure, 25 billion, 60 million, 471,000. Foreign missions development expenditure, 58 billion, 388 million Uganda shillings. And local governments have 1 trillion 124 billion 667 million 65,000. A total development expenditure is 14 trillion 431 billion 238 million 208,000. Total of 31 trillion 263 billion 705 million 886,000. Part C, that's statutory expenditure. Those expenditures like interest on the debt, arrears, bonds, payments for bonds, amortization, that's when you are paying our debt. That one, all total to 21 trillion 473 billion 79 million 372,000. The grand total being 52 billion, 52 trillion 736 billion 785 million 258,000. Right Honorable, the schedules are attached in the following pages, 787, giving detail of the budget for each vote, starting with the recurrent budget. It runs and it's bundled missions, referral hospitals, central governments, and local government as it was. All the detail, which runs up to page, it runs up to page 106 from there.
Chair, maybe
Right, Honorable.
Chair, on the statutory expenditure, that is on statutory votes, which is on Part C, not on interests. Statutory votes include vote 001, 007, 130, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 131, 133, 144, 145.
Thank you, Right Honorable. That's exactly the statutory, which statutory means once supplied, it has to be handled as it is. Right Honorable, I beg to move that the Parliament approves the report and adopts the report and with amendments, and we go for supply. Right Honorable, I also received the notification and the report of the minority, which forms part of our committee report. The minority report is signed by Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, MP for Butambala County, and the Shadow Minister for Finance. Honorable Namuga Goret, Maogola South constituency. Honorable Semuju Ibrahim Nganda, Kira Municipality. Honorable Adeke Ann, Woman Representative, Soroti City. So, Right Honorable, I'm reading what the minority has indicated, that
Thank
Woman
you.
Representative, Soroti City.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your report.
And she signed it.
Thank you for your report. We'll listen to the minority report, and that is in accordance to Rule 205 of the Rules of Procedure. We've had a report from the chairperson of budget. We can also now hear from, yes, Francis.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I will need your guidance because I am lost. I have patiently followed the chairperson's presentation. I also followed the minister. There was pictures and good news of progress and growth that were painted are not reflected in the villages I come from, in my pocket, amongst Ugandans. And I'm wondering whether I have a problem, or the Ugandans have problems, or it is the minister or the chairperson that have a problem. Are we living in the same country, or we are in different countries? Because the progress of 6%, I don't see it. I'm really worried, I'm lost. I need your guidance.
Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Right Honorable. Yes, my colleague, it's true. We have progress in some areas. And in some areas, things are not going well. You recall, I did indicate that we have issues. Much as there is growth, there is income inequality in this country. As you are growing in GDP, the money is in hands of few, and the majority don't have. I did mention that, Right Honorable, and it's one of the issues we say must be addressed, and if well handled, the intentions of the parish development model is one of the methods which are going to curb that gap. Yes, it's just starting.
Honorable members,
the PDM
listen.
is just starting. The improvement, the growth in the manufacturing sector, those are the areas which are going to bring in more money. And of course, the fight against corruption is what we must intensify so that funds are invested and reaches to the last person. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said before, these reports are informative. Let's listen from the minority report too. Yes.
Madam Speaker, this report is very important. The chairperson has not been able to read word by word. Isn't it procedure correct that you exercise your power under the rules to direct the Hansard to capture the entire report?
It's good you came earlier than me, and you're repeating exactly what I said before. That's the benefit of coming very early. Honorable Chivombe.
Right Honorable Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity, and honorable colleagues. Let me start with a disclaimer for purposes of principle and clarity. Nothing will be in this budget that is personal, and I made it clear to the Committee of Budget. Right Honorable Speaker,
and I think the disclaimer is for everybody.
yes,
For all the members of Parliament, there is nothing personal to any of the members of Parliament, and if anything is going to Amuria, it is not for Amero, it is for Amuria, it is for the locals.
I take it at that. But as a question of principle, I needed to be very, very clear. Right Honorable Speaker, areas of dissent. 1, non-compliance. 2, the budget is inconsistent with the borrowing plan for the next financial year. 3, falsification of the resource envelope. 4, revenue improprieties. 5, specific issues on the budget allocations. 6, dissent on committee conclusions on project exiting the budget investment plan and non-complying retooling project in the next financial year. 7, failure to provide for intern, senior house officials allowance and funding for Uganda Red Cross. 8, bloated budget for presidency at the expense of other priority sectors. And 9, suspicious budget allocations and reallocations. Non-compliance. Right Honourable Speaker, Parliament referred the budget estimate to the Budget Committee for scrutiny. Ministry of Finance presented their budget proposals contrary to program-based budgeting as clearly envisaged in the NDP 3. The only mention about program budgeting and the budget allocation stops only on one page, and we go back to sector allocations. So the whole inference to budget programming is just a theory. We recommend expenditures aligned and harmonized of the budget framework paper with the program-based budgeting. That is for policy. Non-compliant. The committee observed that out of the 70 public corporations and state enterprises, only 23 submitted their budgets, i.e. revenue and expenditure, to Parliament. Right Honourable Speaker, down here, I have 47 corporations and enterprises that did not submit their budgets and expenditure proposals to budget. We disagree with the committee's observation that since the inception of the Public Finance Management Act 2015, Parliament has never received the entire budgets of the public corporations and state enterprises as required by the law. We recommend that no funds should be appropriated for all corporations and state enterprises that did not submit their budgets, because it has been going on every other year. So for all these 47 that have not submitted their budgets to Parliament, we differ with the committee's report is just the way it has been, business as usual. This year, we don't provide. Budget support. It is projected that off-budget support will decline from US dollars 351 in the financial year 2022-23 to US dollars 295 million in this financial year, in the coming financial year. It should be observed that this decline is mainly caused by failure to account for donor money, misappropriation, shrinking civic space, corruption, abductions, arrests of citizens without trial, brutal killings, and general decline of the rule of law, as a result of which the country has lost trust and confidence of our development partners to the detriment of our citizens. Our recommendation is that government should address concerns related to human rights abuse, democracy, governance, and the rule of law. It is our considered view that the address of these issues should not be mainly anchored on attracting off-budget support, but also enabling our citizens to enjoy their inherent fundamental human rights and liberties. 2, the budget is inconsistent with the borrowing plan. Right Honourable Speaker, this is where we start to miss the point. Right Honourable Speaker, the budget for the next financial year will be financed as it was elaborated by the Majority Committee. Domestic revenue, 29.34 trillion. domestic budget support 2.7, domestic financing borrowing 2.71, project support, domestic debt refinancing 8.36, project support external financing 7.44, local revenue 280. Right, Honorable Speaker, this budget is inconsistent with the medium-term debt management strategy for the year 2023-24 as laid out in the table below. Right, Honorable Speaker, the minister accompanied this budget with the debt management strategy. And this is what it says, and I'll take note. The total debt for external was projected to be 8.3 trillion. For domestic, it was projected to be 10. The details are on that table. And these are our concerns. Right, Honorable Speaker, let me demonstrate the inconsistency as here under. Under the provision of Section 3010A5 of the Public Finance Management Act.
13, not 30.
13. The Minister of Finance is mandated to table a plan on public debt and any other financial liabilities, whilst presenting the national budget to Parliament to ensure proper debt management. The annual budget estimates must be consistent with the medium-term debt management strategy. The government has committed to secure external financing to a tune of 10.22 trillion as shown in the budget estimate, whereby 2.78 trillion is budget support, grants and loans, and 7.44 is project support. This is inconsistent with the sum of 8.84 trillion total external borrowing as per the borrowing plan in the medium-term debt management strategy. When you go back to the table, Right Honorable Speaker, you will see government said they will borrow 8.4 trillion. Now, they come with a figure they are going to borrow 10. For external, they committed to borrow 10. For domestic, they've gone ahead and borrowed 11. And two things to note, Right Honorable Speaker. There is also a great inconsistency when you read the table with the level of concessional versus non-concessional loan. We note that 90%, 97, 90, only 7.9, which is 1.4 trillion of the total borrowed money will be concessional. The rest of the money is non-concessional. 2, government is also going for the domestic market to borrow huge amounts of money to the disadvantage and in competition with the private sector. The effect of domestic borrowing on the private sector tackled. Falsification of the resource envelope. Right Honorable Speaker, when you look at the resource envelope, there is a huge amount of falsification. They are giving us a total discretionary budget of 25 trillion. But that is in effect, they have not deducted pension and gratuity. They have not deducted the total wage. They have not deducted the contingency fund. When you deduct the two from 25, all the 4 items, the true discretionary expenditure of government comes down to
Honorable Chivumbi, the pension fund, give us the amount, the gratuity.
Okay, the pension is 278.57 billion. Gratuity is 111.5, 115 and 2.3. Total wage in the budget is 6.959 trillion. Contingency fund, as per the law established, should have been 240.25. So when you deduct these, 0.6, when you deduct these figures from, in addition to what they have as a discretionary fund, you remain with 17 trillion. That's a true reflection.
17.5 trillion.
So that is a true reflection of the...
You know, when we are talking about figures, we have to be very, very careful. It's not like you're talking about the Columbus.
I'm being a bit fast to save time. So it is 17, as you have said, point something. So, Right Honorable Speaker, this is really absurd, because as we go to reallocate, let us know that the only money to play with in the whole 52 billion budget is only 52 trillion budget is only 17 trillion. The rest of the money goes to debt management. Right on, and that answers your queries, Honorable Mojuchi. Uncollected mineral.
And members, the debt management that we are paying for was not borrowed during our time. That money was borrowed over a period of time. For us, we are only now paying.
Yes, sir.
We are just victims now.
But it was borrowed
Let's go on.
But it was borrowed before under this regime for the last 34 years.
I'm saying not in the 11th Parliament.
Not in the 11th Parliament, definitely. It's not your
I'm
fault.
also giving a disclaimer.
You're also giving a disclaimer. But it was also in steady progress. Right Honorable Speaker, uncollected mineral taxes. The Auditor General's report on the performance of URA for the financial year 2021-22 indicated that URA failed to collect 340 billion in taxes from gold export, estimated to be recovered over a period of after 5 years after the 5% levy was implemented. In March 2023, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development directed the Uganda Revenue Authority to halt the recovery of gold export tax. This was in addition to the directive of the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, halting the implementation of the 5% levy, $200 on each kilogram of gold exported. During the plenary, the Attorney General disclosed that the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development slashed taxes on gold from 616 billion to 43 billion. There are other minerals whose revenue is hardly declared by government. And Honorable Speaker, I want to note the following. Phosphate and steel at Sukuru. The company is named there. That company is fully operational, doesn't pay any tax. Marble from Karamoja, M&S, Sunbelt. That company is full operational, doesn't pay any simple penny on the mineral tax. Tin, African Partner Resource Limited. This is also full operational, they don't pay any penny. This is Viscarf. It is there. This is dealing with also minerals. I think gold in Busia, it doesn't pay. There's also another gold from Busia, a company called Wagaga Mining Limited. It doesn't pay any penny. Right Honorable Speaker, with the foregoing mineral activities in the country, one would expect corresponding increase in revenue from the mining sector. However, there is still obscurity and unwarranted waivers, thus revenue leakage. Our recommendation, establish a monitoring mechanism to track and recover all revenues from the minerals and mining activities. Ministry of Defense and Veterans Affairs. The government has had a contractual commitment on classified equipment that has cost Uganda a total of 16 trillion over the contractual period. The outlay of the outlay for 2022-23 was 19 trillion, 1.9 trillion. This project has elapsed and will soon end in June of this financial year. Ironically, in the supplementary schedule for this financial year, a sum of 339.8 billion was moved from a contractual commitment and allocated shortfalls in the wage for UPDF. To our surprise, under the budget estimate for the financial year 2023-24, a sum equal in amount of 1.9 trillion, the amount previously allocated for contractual commitment, has been allocated to retooling under classified expenditure without following the retooling guidelines under the Public Finance Management Act. In another twist of events, with the intention of sanitizing the 1.9 trillion, the Ministry of Finance, in a agenda, has again deducted 339 billion from a sum of 1.9 and shifted to cater for wage shortfalls. Clearly, there is suspicious motive in the way the ministry is holding on to this money, to the extent they have now hidden it in a classified expenditure to avoid scrutiny. But luckily, we can infer from the circumstances that this is from hemorrhaging public coffers, and this raises many questions. We recommend that the allocation of 1.9 trillion for classified be rejected. We further recommend that the Public Finance Management Act be amended to define the structure of classified expenditure to limit wastage and abuse of public resources. Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation.
Just a minute, maybe before you go ahead, Prime Minister, can I have the Minister of Energy here? We need to get information on the gold collections.
I can continue.
You can continue.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm now going to Science and Technology and Innovation under President's Vote 167. Presidential Advisory Committee on Export and Industrial Development by Mr. Audrey Rwabogo and Dai Biopharma Factory in Matuga. Day Pharma Factory Matuga. Support for coffee chain. Support for the coffee value chain development 37 and support for vaccine and pharmaceutical 70 billion today Biopharma Factory in Matuga and now suspicious subdivisions put in the newly created vote 177 for science and 67 for science and technology and innovations. When Mr. Rwabogo Odrek appeared before the Budget Committee on Budget during the retreat at Munyonyo Resort, he informed the committee that this project on coffee value chain development required $100 million. He has been allocated 10 million US, equivalent to 37 billion in the budget. This amount for private investment was directly charged to the consolidated fund. In the subsequent agenda, it has been shifted to State House under classified expenditure. Right Honorable Speaker, we dissent with the majority decision to provide and shift money mounting to 37 billion for Mr. Audrey Rwabogo under the disguise for coffee value chain development from vote 167 Science and Technology and Innovation to classified expenditure for logistical support and security under State House vote 02 as indicated an addendum to the agenda to the draft budget estimate for the financial year. Classified expenditures should not be abused to hide irregular, personal, illegal expenditures on the consolidated fund. Right Honorable Speaker, we have also informed this committee that this new penalty, black penalty now, requires 100 million US dollars. And what is going to happen, Right Honorable Speaker, and I know the game plan now, the moment you make an entry of 10 million dollars, they will now go under 3% and provide the rest of the money under insufficient funding. That's what is going to happen, and expect a supplementary budget to have provided the rest of 100 million. We are saying, for heaven's sake, since do some people have the audacity to go to the consolidated fund for a personal venture? It doesn't matter who you are and who you know. These are taxpayers' money. In the same vein, the budget, and Right Honorable Speaker better also put this, there is no amount of a letter president will write to intimidate me with an arrest that will make me go silent on some of these matters.
Did they write to you?
They wrote a letter to every single MP where my name was mentioned, and Honorable Rutamaguzi, and instructed the relevant authority wherever I talk about some of these things where I'm critical.
Did he mention that when you talk about penalty?
No, he talked about parish development model. But now I'm talking about this one. I want to state that no amount of intimidation will make us silent on some of these issues.
You said this one is a black penalty.
This is a black. This is the.
At least now we have a black penalty, not a white one.
But Honorable Speaker, the big issues is you are going to.
No, I was just cracking a joke.
Yes.
Continue.
Yeah, the big issue, Honorable Speaker, is you want to invest. Kenya has the same structure across Europe for their flour and fruits, even at Heathrow. But it's government owned. That infrastructure is government owned. That's why in our proposal, Right Honorable Speaker, we are going to propose a better solution. In the same vein, the budget allocated 70 billion to biopharma factory in Matuga to establish a pharmaceutical plant by Mr. Matthias Magola, not the Honorable Mpuga, the managing director. He informed the committee, good enough, all these are on record. He informed the committee that the project requires a total sum of 1 billion US dollars. 1 billion US dollars, an equivalent of 303.7 trillion. The government will continue charging the consolidated fund for a private undertaking for a long period at the taxpayer's expense. Even if government was to facilitate the establishment of a pharmaceutical facility, the US dollar 1 billion is a high scale for such a facility. Comparatively, Right Honorable Speaker, by technology firm Mondema is set to build a similar facility in Kenya at a cost of only 500 million US dollars. And the President of Kenya launched this project, His Excellency Samuel Ruto, just the other day, for only 500, a similar facility. We are landlocked. Okay, for another day. We submit that the consolidated fund should not be used to act as a lender of first resort to every non-bankable idea. If these projects are feasible and worth the support, there are many ways through which the government can support them. For instance, that money should be channeled through the Uganda Development Corporation or the Uganda Development Bank for onward lending. Or, as we've done for Rocco, we've done for Abubeka, we've done for other agencies, we go and acquire equity in those ventures, and that will protect our children's and children's money. Besides the vote, there are 9 agencies under the table below with the audit queries. Some of the outstanding audit queries include Shira Motor Corporation. The Auditor General raised an audit query. UNCCT has an audit query under the same vote. Presidential Initiative on Banana Industrial Development, PID, has an audit query. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we recommend funding amounting to 37 billion meant to Mr. Rwabogo's coffee chain should not be approved.
Meant for who? Not Magogo,
Mr.
Magola.
Mr. Rwabogo.
Withdraw your statement.
Mr. Rwabogo. Not Magogo. You know Moses is my OB. should not be approved. 2, funding amounting to 70 billion to this factory in Matuga, manufacturing of pharmaceutical, should not be approved. This is our alternative proposal, Right Honorable Speaker. That allocations made to coffee chain development and this other should be shifted to Uganda Development Corporation, where interested parties should access it through loans, either Uganda Development Corporation or UDB, where they can go and borrow, or UDC, where Uganda will be able to acquire equity in those undertakings, and that will protect the crucial sums of money the country is due to invest in these ventures. Right Honorable Speaker, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, we disagree on the additional additional 2 billion towards monitoring of wealthy funds under the Paris Development Model for Secretariat allowance on the top of the initial allocation of 9.2 billion. This is wasteful expenditure and unjustified. We also disagree with the allocation of 12 billion to facilitate the procurement of bicycles for parish chiefs and rent for their offices. The country has a total of 10,595 parishes, and thus same number of parishes with the same number of parish chiefs. If the unit cost for a bicycle is 400,000, it will cost a total sum of 4,238 million to cover all the parishes, exclusive of maintenance cost. The balance of 8.5 cannot sufficiently cater for rent, utilities, furniture, and other office equipment. In our observation, the sustainability of the policy for paying rent for parish chiefs is highly questionable, considering rent areas burdening other government agencies. However, we recommend an additional 5 billion to be added to the bicycle, and 2 billion that is for the Secretariat to cater for office equipment. We are only saying the 12 billion, if you are to go for rent, 100,000 per parish, it will consume the 12 billion. But the president wrote and said he wants money to also for each parish chief to have a bicycle. A bicycle current market price, each unit cost is around 400,000. If you put in this money, the 12 billion provided is not enough. We want to provide 6, we want to provide 5, and then provide the 2. At least if he has an office, he should be able to put a table and a chair for him to sit. That is our proposal. And I think the president will be happy with that. I hope he will not arrest me for that. For that proposal. 6.01. Dissent on committee conclusions on projects exiting the public investment plan and non-compliant retooling project. Right Honorable Speaker, the following projects from page 13 to page 16 are supposed to exit and to end, and they are due completion by 30th June. But to our surprise, going forward, money has been provided to a tune of 500 billion, 538 billion. Our proposal is that if these projects are due to exit and are to be completed by June, why do we do a further provision of resources? Is that this money for these projects should be shifted and they go to other useful needs. Right, Honorable Speaker. We also have a long list of non-compliant retooling projects in the country. All these projects underlined under retooling. Honorable members who don't know about retooling is where government agencies normally put money for vehicles, for what, for AOB, so all those things come under retooling. So we are saying, and there is a criteria in the Public Finance Management Act how to go about a committee for retooling for each agencies. All these projects have not followed that criteria, but they are within the budget allocations. Our view is that these will lead to wasteful expenditures, and all these projects should not be funded. Failure to provide for interns and senior house officers allowance and funding for Uganda Red Cross. Right, honorable colleagues, we've noted with concern that both in the first crew gender, second crew gender, and the budget allocation, still there is no money for the medical interns. And you have money for retooling, you have money to donate it to Sujui, you have money to donate it to Sujii, for whatever, and it is interns that are running the medical facilities countrywide. Therefore, for all these deductions we get, we want the budget committee to adjust the figure and provide the money. It is Parliament with the last call for interns. The country is tired of strikes. The country is tired of the people who really serve the commonest person, so, and goes unpaid. So that is our point of view, Right Honorable Speaker. Now, the last one before I invite Honorable Semju to go for another part, because the Honorable Speaker, as you know, much as I've been around for the last 2 months, I'm not at full charge. You are aware. No, we don't go into detail. So I cannot speak for so long. So I'm going to have Honorable Semju deal with the last part. Now, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker. Suspicious budget allocations and reallocations. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleague, listen to this. The Budget Committee has identified a source for reallocation for rural electrification, and it took away 100 billion that is supposed to go to the Ministry of Energy for provision of electricity to rural areas. Our humble view and opinion is that much as there are issues in that sector, I'm coming from a constituency where polls were put so many years ago, 2 years, and so many in so many people's constituency, and they are costing MPs dearly because they keep on explaining there is no wire, there are no transformers, and the country is in darkness. But you have the audacity to shift 100 billion from rural electrification and take it where? I'm going to tell you where they've taken the money. And in my humble view, these kinds of reallocations should be resisted with utmost sincerity. First point is that we reject the shifting of 100 billion from rural electrification to the column of reallocation. And we maintain this money there. If there are issues, let the oversight committee ensure that the ministry sticks with the plans and the project gets implemented. We are tired of answering these questions. And I think it will cost also the president dearly in the coming election, or whoever. Or whoever. And I mean so. Right Honorable Speaker, and this is where I have issues. I've identified agencies in the reallocation schedule. For the last 4 years, these agencies get the massive eye of reallocation schedule. we are saying they can't be the same every year. They can't be the same agencies every year. And in this submission, I've identified them. Most of them are not in areas where there is a critical service delivery. Most of them are the following. Oh, I have issues here with that list. They are the following. I'm trying to trace a page. 25. Page 25. Now, page 23, I know the figures here are we tried to make it colored printing for clarity of the column that for the last 5 years I've been receiving reallocation, for 3 years, for 2 years. Now we have a project in the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries for purchase of tractors. For purchase of tractors. I'm the one speaking. Yeah.
Amero, can we allow you to come and continue presenting? Let's allow the member to present.
Right, Honorable Speaker. The tractors, man has been allocated for whatever from the allocation schedule of 6-something billion for purchase of tractors. We've been constantly making a case. Is where the rationale for these tractors? Who gets them? And if we are taking away money for electricity, let us first provide electricity for our people. And we are saying we stay this allocation because we've been funding this project for the last 3-4 years. And the tractors are nowhere to be seen. So we are saying 26 billion. We are saying money that has consistently gone.
Honorable members, listen to the member presenting. If you want to speak, go to the corridor.
Money that has consistently gone to the Inspectorate of Government, IGG, should be allocated 14 billion. Money that has gone to the National Planning Authority. These are things in Kampala for planning, UNDP, blah, blah. We can have electricity, and this one will do next year. Law Development Center, Directorate of DIGAL. This one, since I was in the Defense Committee, these fellows get the allocation. For all the 7 years I've been in the budget, DIGAL gets the allocation. National Planning Authority gets the allocation. UBOS gets the allocation. The National Intelligence Authority gets the allocation. I've collected all those monies from all those agencies that have no direct bearing to service delivery. And we are cutting money for electricity. We don't give them the reallocation. We restore the 100 billion for electricity. And I'm going to provide a list of those agencies.
Thank you.
Right, Honorable Speaker, with that, and I mean well for everyone, with that, I invite Honorable Semuju and to deal with the rest, with part 2.
Honorable members, as I told you, all these reports are informative. They are informative. Where you cannot make any changes, they will inform us on what to do in the next financial year. Yes. I am saying they are informative. The budget, it helps us. And that's why I will not put a vote on the minority report, because you need that information. If you put a vote and it is voted out, then it will be thrown out. Honorable Semuju. Honorable members, can we listen?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. I begin with 9.0, President's Office, vote 001. Madam Speaker and honorable members, the Constitution under Article 98 creates the President and provides for his or her election in Article 103. Article 99 of the Constitution states that the President shall safeguard this Constitution and promote the welfare of citizens. The President under the Constitution works or is supposed to work for the sole purpose of promoting the welfare of citizens, not himself or his family. In the proposed budget for the financial year 2023-2024, vote 001 Office of the President has been allocated, provided 239 billion shilling. Of course, this figure changes if you look at the second agenda. This money is to facilitate the President's work as the Constitution mandates him to promote the welfare of citizens. I have provided that figure for you to see what that money will do. The first item on the table, official ceremonies and functions, 43.7 billion shilling. You can read the table by yourself. I propose that we reduce this budget under President's Office by 82 billion shilling. Why? This money for ceremonies and classified expenditure is a candidate for reallocation. How on earth can we provide for 43 billion shilling for ceremonies when the road network in the capital city has broken down? The money for ceremonies should be spent on repairing roads in Kampala and Wakiso. In Tanzania, for your information, late President Magufuli, the only activity he undertook on the independence of Tanzania was a speech, and he said the money should be used to do roads in Dar es Salaam. I go to vote 002 State House. The total budget for the residence of the President in this budget before the second core agenda was 417.9 billion. This means that every day the President and his family, because they are the ones staying in the State House, they spend 1.1 billion. They spend 47.7 million per hour and 795,000 per minute. To put it even more clearly, for every 2 minutes, you can count now, every 2 minutes, they are spending 1.5 million every 2 minutes. This parliament will be in breach of the Constitution if it passes a budget that allows the President to illegally swim in luxury at the expense of the citizens' welfare. The Presidential Emoluments and Benefits Act 1998 provides the salary, allowances, and benefits to the President. When budgeting for the President and his family, this law applies. Unfortunately, the previous parliament...
There is an order from Cecilia.
Right Honorable Speaker, the member holding the floor is talking about the expenditure for a family, the President and his wife. The information we have officially is that the President receives only 3.6 million salary per month. Now, is the member in order to impute that the President is spending all these billions when actually the President only receives officially 3.6 million shillings per month? Is the member in order?
Honorable members. Honorable members. Office of the President, a vote is a statutory vote. And the money that is just like Parliament, money that is allocated there can only be discussed by specific committee, statutory. Just like you don't discuss about your vote of Parliament. But let Honorable Semuju continue.
Madam Speaker, the Presidential Emoluments and Benefits Act 1998, I am on page 32, provides a salary, allowances, and other benefits to the President. When budgeting for the President and his family, this law applies. Unfortunately, the previous parliaments have not guided themselves on what the President and his family is or are entitled to legally. I have for that purpose, Right Honorable Speaker and other members, attached a schedule of what the benefits of the President and his family are. And you can straight go to that table. The point the Honorable Cecilia Ogwal makes, the salary of the President in first schedule in that law remains 3.6. The list is long. I may not have to go into the whole list. But please take note that anything that you give to the President and his family, either in excess or below what the law provides, is illegal. Because the makers of the law knew that there will be a President and a family. That's why they are providing even for his children, for education, for a trip outside. Do not be tempted to provide beyond. In the future, you are going to be arrested for the money that you are just splashing. So that schedule is schedule 1 in the Presidential and Emoluments and Benefits Act. I don't have to read it. I now want to draw your attention, Madam Speaker, and the House, to the budget that has been provided for the President and his family, and for you to compare whether it complies with the Presidential Emoluments and Benefits Act. Details are on the table that follows. For a quick reference, donations, 137 billion shilling. Classified expenditure, including money for Wawogo, 120 billion. Travel abroad.
There is an order. Eddie?
Has he finished his Mabat problems?
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I take cognizance that this House is a very serious House.
Honorable members, is free sitting. I can see. You don't have to stand like you're looking after cows. Kakumiro, move this side. Yes.
Right Honorable Speaker, I rise on a point of order, and I want to state for the record that is obvious to us that this is a very serious House. This is a National Assembly, Parliament of Uganda, where whether you sneeze, whatever you say here is captured on the record for generations to come. I actually said it is obvious. And is restating the
Member,
obvious
stop heckling.
Is for
listen to
emphasis.
The member.
If you know it, probably I knew it before you do. Is it in order for us to debate in this House? We are considering a national budget to drag in names of individuals who are
Honorable members, listen.
Right Honorable Speaker, we either debate logically or we go illogically. Is it in order for us to start bringing in the names of people that are not in this house to defend themselves?
Honorable members, Honorable OO, Honorable both, in the report, it's indicated that Mr. Rabogo appeared before the committee. And if he appeared before the committee, the only thing that I don't see in the budget is a company showing Rabogo. It is not indicated. But if he appeared in the committee, I cannot stop anybody from mentioning a person who appeared in the committee. But the figure that they are saying was given to Rabogo is not what I am seeing here. And I don't see the name of Rabogo in the report. Maybe I hear from the chair.
Right Honorable, Right Honorable Speaker and members, the person Rabogo appeared to the committee to give a committee some insight on export promotion. He had a team, and they had a number of products they were trying to give us the vision. If we invested in value addition, we would earn a lot of income. One of them was coffee, there was fish, there was beef, milk. So they gave just that insight to the committee, and we received the information. However, as far as these estimates are concerned, there is nothing allocated to what Rabogo spoke about. Information.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Chair, for giving way. Right Honorable Speaker, appearing before the committee is not a crime. And Right Honorable Speaker, we have interfaced with many people, with many agencies, headed by people whose names also could be mentioned. Picking one person's name is really demonizing the process of promoting the exports in Uganda.
James?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
I have said if Rabogo appeared before the committee, it has no problem.
Yeah.
Me, what I don't see an allocation to Rabogo.
Exactly. So the information I wanted to relate to my chair is that
and if you're talking about vote 2, President's office, is it vote? State House? Talk about State House.
So thank you, Madam Speaker. I think let's
Madam,
debate the national budget. Let's not debate individuals.
Let's talk about State House.
Madam Speaker,
can you summarize? Members, can you summarize?
I am finishing. There are things that happen in a committee that we don't want to bring here. For example, when Rabogo came to Munyonyo, Honorable Kaberuka was almost kneeling down to greet him. This one here.
Now, can we stop that? Is that what we are supplying today?
And we don't want to say those things. That's why I want to concentrate on the report.
Honorable
Speaker,
Semuju,
the law provides for...
Let it be substance over form.
Yeah, I agree, Madam Speaker.
I need some substance from you.
Madam Speaker, I have provided a table. You see and I want to invite members of Parliament.
Read what is in your document.
That's what I am reading, Madam
Read
Speaker.
what is in the document.
Yeah. I want to invite members of Parliament to begin looking at the voluminous revenue estimates. The Honorable Kanye has a copy. They are too voluminous. Before you pass figures, you need to look at the details. That's why some people are uncomfortable when you begin mentioning names, because they are used to just a smaller report. Go to these voluminous books and read them. Madam Speaker, I have provided a table there. The law provides for one residence. You can see this is one volume. There are about 4. If you don't read them when you are debating budget, keep quiet. Madam Speaker, the law provides for one residence, state house. The president operates 2 residences. Go back to the law on Presidential Emoluments and Benefits Act. It provides for one residence to the president.
Which residences are those?
You have told me to read the report. Can I read, madam? The president operates 2 residences at Nakasero and Entebbe illegally. That's why his electricity bill at 500 million and water bill at 500 million per year is bigger than a big factory like roofings. Whatever they are manufacturing at State House, Allah knows. Honorable members, I would like to draw your attention to other items to be funded under State House. There is 550 million shilling to buy clothes. The same amount was provided last year. This means we are spending on average. I am reading the report.
He's reading the report. Honorable Minister, sit down.
The same amount was provided last year. This means we are spending on average 1 million shilling on President Yoweri Museveni's clothes every day. Our president is not a staff from Hollywood, requiring to change wardrobe every day. He's the president of a poor country. Why buy him clothes worth 350 million every year? What happened to the clothes that we bought last year? We are providing 600 million shilling for furniture. We provided the same amount last year. This residence has won
Honorable
itself
members, you'll have time to debate that report.
We are providing 600 million shilling for furniture. The same amount was provided last year. This residence has won itself a place in the history of Uganda. The beds in public health facilities are not there, but the president is buying clothes and furniture every year. We are providing 7.8 billion for agriculture supplies. We are also providing another 184 million for veterinary services. Did the president turn State House into a farm without the knowledge of the country? Parliament must be sure that we are not the ones providing funding for President Yoweri Museveni's private farms in Chisos and Rwakitura. To make matters worse, he has provided himself with 120 billion shilling for classified expenditure at his residence. That we have spoken about earlier, I can skip. The president has a duty not to abuse the State House, but if he chooses to do so, this parliament is under obligation to stop him. President Museveni despised the former president Rukongwa Binaisa for turning State House into what he called the clearing house. He has now surpassed him. In fact, Mr. Museveni has turned the State House into an enterprise for himself and his family. Remember, Vote 002, which is State House, started around 1997 with just about 12 billion shilling. Last year, it hit $1 trillion. State House budget was last year, the money was appropriated here, 682 billion. Another 150 billion has been provided in the classified, in the supplementary expenditure. The budget on donations, 137 billion under State House, falls under what the president called cheap popularity in his April 3rd, 2023 letter to Prime Minister Honorable Nabanja and copied to all MPs. He said distribution of items such as iron sheet is cheap popularity, and under NRA code it is subversive. It therefore violates the NRA code and is classified as subversive in his letter. The NRA should tell Parliament why it has not arrested its officer RO001 General Museveni for distribution of khaki brown envelopes in search of cheap popularity. General Museveni should be court-martialed, in fact. I therefore propose that the president and his family are given only 12.1 billion shilling under State House for their welfare. The extra 400 billion should be used to fund priorities in the health sector. You need to go to Murago. They get water in the night. By midday.
Is that in the report?
I am illustrating.
Go to the report.
Madam Speaker.
Go to the next vote.
The money meant for luxury under State House should be used to fund the priorities in the health
sector that have not been provided for. The funding gap is at 700 billion shilling. That's what our committee was able to provide. Office of the Prime Minister. This office has been allocated 222 billion. The Prime Minister, according to Article 101A of the Constitution, is charged with the following responsibility. Shall be the lead of government business in Parliament and be responsible for the coordination and implementation of government policies across ministries, departments, and public institutions. The Prime Minister is therefore at the heart of running the state. This Parliament is aware that the current Prime Minister, right now she's hiding in Kakumiro, remains a suspect in the case of disappearing of iron sheets meant for Karamoja. Not only did she fail to coordinate and implement the distribution of iron sheets to Karamoja, but she personally took 3,000 iron sheets. Her deputies, Honorable Rebecca Kadaga and Honorable Kikia Nakadama, also shared. I would like to remind this Parliament that money for Karamoja iron sheets and got 339 billion shilling was passed by this Parliament in a supplementary request. I would like, it cannot be the same Parliament now placing a whole 222 billion shilling in the hands of those who have feasted on the 39. Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, you owe it to the country. The colleagues involved in this case have demonstrated inability to supervise public funds. The President wrote to the Prime Minister and copied that letter to all of us. He accused his own ministers of theft and subversion. He actually promised action. I therefore propose that the budget for the office of the Prime Minister, save for the salaries of staff, be withheld until the President has taken his promised political action. There is no way this Parliament will place money in the hands of suspects who are hiding. They are not even sitting in office. And below, I reproduce what is already in the letter that each one of you has. Moreover, there was even a proposal from the accounting officer of that department, late Keith Mwakanizi, that this department must be restructured immediately. Honourable members, I would like to remind you that the two ministers for Karamoja, the Honourable Kitutu and her deputy, have already been charged and have slept in Luzira. That ministry is at the moment without a minister or a deputy because the two were just granted temporary freedom to go to hospital and to visit law chambers. On page 67 of the estimates of revenue and expenditure, 4.7 billion has been provided for this Ministry of Karamoja Affairs and budget output, that number. This Parliament should not send money to a ministry that at the moment is crumbling. Our money should not crumble with the ministry. I invite Parliament to look at Section 11G of the Public Finance and Management Act. In the case of civil servants, the law does not allow anyone to be appointed an accounting officer if he has accountability issues. It states, an appointee or a designated accounting officer in accordance with this act, except that the Secretary to the Treasury shall not appoint a designate or designate a person an accounting officer where, according to the report of an internal auditor, Auditor General, or the Auditor General, that person has not accounted for the public resources or assets of the vote for a financial year. This Parliament should apply the same and similar standards when it comes to public resources. A minister, Prime Minister, who has issues of accountability must not be allowed anywhere near public resources. As I finish, Madam Speaker, the final one, the Government Chief Whip. This office of whips is the creation of the Administration of Parliament Act and our rules of procedure. There are 7 political parties in this Parliament, all of them with whips. In the budget of the Office of Prime Minister, there is 2 billion shilling for the exclusive use of the NRM whip. It's being provided with 800 million shilling for donation, 150 million to maintain his cars, 100 million to fuel his cars, 815 million for inland travels, 100 for security and guards, 130 million shilling for special drinks and meals. This is not the only whip in this Parliament. The opposition whip is here, and other whips are not provided with these facilities, yet they are doing the same thing under the law. I am inviting Parliament to withhold the approval of this money. Finally, the President, while speaking at the Requiem Mass of our late colleague, he said we should not be providing money for guards because we turn them into mercenaries. What therefore should follow is the removal of any money for guards in the budget. You can see I have provided information here. The NRM whip has 100 million shillings for his guards. The Prime Minister has 800 million shillings for his guards. The President himself, who said we should not provide money, has put 2.5 billion for his guards. I don't know whether this government speaks to itself. One person says this, another does the other. Madam Speaker, honourable members, thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable Semuju and Honorable Chivumbi and the Chair. The Office of the Prime Minister, vote 003. One thing I need to clarify is it's not personal to holder. It's an office. And because it is an office, today Honorable Nabanja is the Prime Minister, tomorrow it can be Honorable Semuju. So it is not personal, and the money should be given to the office because it is not personal. I want a clarification on this, on government chief whip. Aren't we doing double accounting? Aren't we doing a double accounting on the government chief whip? If there is money released from OPM and then there is money released from Parliamentary Commission, isn't that double accounting?
Madam Speaker, the question you are asking is very pertinent. If it is true,
now we need to go and verify whether what has been said is correct on the figures, because as Parliamentary Commission we support the government chief whip, the opposition whip. So that's what we need to confirm on the amounts. Members, when we are talking about budgeting, we talk about figures.
thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for your wise guidance. And it is important that we don't lose anything when we listen, when some of us are talking about these matters. Madam Speaker, double counting is something irregular. And I want to undertake that we are going to cross-check. If we find that the item being talked about amounts to double counting, we shall definitely eliminate it from the books.
Thank you. On the issue of the gold, I want us to answer these questions one by one. On the issue of the gold, minerals.
Right, Honorable Speaker. The report says hardly any revenues. It is true, there are hardly any revenues generated from the minerals which have been highlighted here. One, Dongsong Energy Group of Company Limited, producing fertilizer. That factory is not operational. It went through financial challenges and there is no production. And there could be, that actually shows there is no revenue that's expected on a non-functional factory. MS Sunbelt, marble blocks.
So you're saying it is non-functional?
It is not functional.
And the report is saying it is functional, fully functional.
It is not true. It is not functional. It had financial challenges and is currently closed in Tororo.
Honorable Angora, if it is in Tororo, can we get a confirmation? And let our research assistants also not just get information from the corridors. Oh, you know the factory?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Dongsong Company was one of the flagship projects that the government supported to produce 5 key products: fertilizer, iron ore, glass, as among others. It is started with a lot of vigor, but to date, as we speak, the bushes have overgrown the factory. It has financial challenges, and I think government is trying to see how to create a partnership and look for other investors to work with those who are there to support the factory to come up
Thank you.
again. It is not functional.
So it is not functional. Yes.
To marble, MS Sunbelt, marble blocks, slabs, tiles, and etc. It is reported here it is fully functional. To the best of the ministry's knowledge, this factory was licensed to get into an operational state. Currently, it's not functional. So this is also not true.
Next.
The next one is African Panther Resources Limited, tin ore. There was a government issued a ban on export of raw minerals. We wanted all our minerals to be added value to. The 70% purity, which is stated here, is not yet to a level of export. And this is because of our government ban on exports of minerals. So they're actually producing, but there is no revenue that's being earned because it is meant for export.
Can I hear from Ekanya? Ekanya? Ekanya, give me information on the ore because I know you're one of them.
Tin.
Madam Speaker, minerals attract different forms of revenue to government. There is royalty that also goes to the consolidated fund account. There is Madam Speaker, minerals attract different forms of taxes. There's royalty, which goes to consolidated fund account, which the government must collect, whether you export or add value domestically. Therefore, the minister needs to tell us what's happening with royalty. Then there is export levy, which is charged by Uganda Revenue Authority for export purpose. Then there is income tax at the end of the financial year. So all this, are you telling us, Madam Speaker, is the minister telling us that we get zero in all this?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
That's an interesting submission. The miners are not doing business. So where do they get the money to pay those taxes? They are not functional.
Honorable members, what the minister is saying, there was a ban on exportation. There was a ban. I'll leave you to debate. Let's hear from the minister. Next.
The next one is Namankara vermiculite mine. Current production stands at 30,000 tons per year from 150. Namankara deposit is considered the world-class vermiculite deposit. It is true, it is the world-class, but look at the drop on production. And the title said, hardly. It means there is some taxes which are actually accruing from this, not to the expected level of revenue. Look at the title, hardly any, but means this one dropping from 150 to 30,000 is actually something which is, it is paying but not to the expected level. Wagagai Mining Limited, it has got 9.24 square kilometers and is in Busia. That mining is actually under construction. There is no work going on, and we have not even given them the electricity which they are asking for. We are going to provide them with a line to enable them add value.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, this takes us to the report the Leader of Opposition asked for. You're going to be on the order paper of Tuesday and give us a report on the exemptions that you gave in your ministry. And you need to bring the aside and lay on table that gave you permission to do that. So we are going to discuss the issue of the minerals on Tuesday.
Most obliged, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Listen. James. When you're in the house, respect decorum. Please. I will also ask you to kneel down. Honorable members, Minister, do you have what to say? Can we hear from the chairperson on the issues that have been raised?
Thank you, Right Honorable.
And I'm just a kind reminder, these reports are informative.
Right Honorable.
Let's hear from him, then you. There is a procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Wouldn't it be procedure okay if it pleases you that this do not appear like a sparring session between the chair and the shadow minister, that you allow debate so that the chairperson responds at once to all emerging issues to avoid a monologue of sorts, Honorable Speaker, if it pleases you.
He has a clarification to make, so you let him first make his clarification.
Thank you, Right Honorable. On matters, I thank also my colleagues for the minority submitted and the report. Colleagues, let's all remember that the Budget Committee is a committee of this Parliament, and whatever the Budget Committee processes is referred to the committee by the floor. Sector committees scrutinize these estimates and present the reports to the floor. The reports are referred to the Budget Committee just for reconciliation and consolidation. Nothing appears in our report that is not within what's adopted by the floor. Colleagues, I would like to respond issues like budget support. Our colleagues raised that the amounts are declining. Budget support, these are grants and loans. If they are declining, don't we celebrate? Because it's reducing our debt. And also we have to understand the parts for concessional going up. We did mention in our report that there are reasons why these non-concessional loans are taking stride. Because if we are getting loans, the lenders have also faced shocks. When shocks hit the world, even the lenders get affected. So the lenders are less willing to lend. They can only lend based on the terms which can accommodate their level of risk. Because if you are lending where there is a lot of uncertainty in the world economic, global economies, you lend only when the terms, the benefits seem to be convincing. So that's why the non-concessional loans are now start growing, because the lenders, even their businesses, their internal generations are not doing very well. So they raise the interest. So that's where we are. So the problem is the capacity. Do we have the capacity to reduce the concession and non-concessional? That's where the trouble comes. Clarification.
Chair, you've attempted to explain why we cannot get concessional loans or why the burden of non-concessional loans is growing. I'm acutely aware Uganda has a drawing rights with International Monetary Fund up to $1 billion, which is a concessional facility, and we could not fully exploit it because the country was supposed to undertake reforms. As the budget committee attempted to ensure the Ministry of Finance qualifies with the proposals which were put to the ministry, so that going forward we can be able to benefit from very concessional facilities.
Thank you, colleague, for that question. I think this one, Minister of Finance, the implementer, has the information up to date on that. I think, Right Honorable, if Honorable Minister can chip in for that, it would give an update.
Let me first hear from Honorable Angora, then Minister comes in.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think my colleague has mixed the two, non-concessional and concessional funding. The challenge that we are experiencing is arising from our major development partners, the funders, that is the World Bank, IMF, who have been giving us non-concessional funding. And that is why concession. Now we are now moving to expensive funding. And I thought that is what the Minister of Finance will have to clarify further, but based on many circumstances that could be arising from the shocks coming from COVID, arising from the challenges that we're experiencing from Ukraine. So the funding will continue to reduce. And that is where, as a country, we should start looking at how to generate local revenue, expand our revenue base, and see how we can reduce on the interest payments going forward. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, I need to update Honorable Guzuli that it is true we received special drawing rights amounting to $1 billion for budget support and specifically to mitigate the economic impacts of COVID. We have since drawn these rights to the extent of $750 million. We are left with $250 million. So it is not true that we are not utilizing these special drawing rights. And the service level agreement you are talking about, yes, we had several engagements with IMF, and we agreed, and now everything is going as we had planned.
Thank you.
Right Honorable, I move now the corporations and state enterprises. Colleagues, the committee analyzed truly and found out, as it's mentioned in the main report, that some corporations have not yet fulfilled the requirement as per the law. So when we interrogated, we found a situation whereby we thought we appropriate the funds and have the oversight role of our sector committees where these enterprises fall, be followed up.
Chair,
So,
what was your basis of allocation? If they have not told you what they want, how did you allocate that money?
Right Honorable, the money which they brought for allocation, in the estimates, is what was appropriated. And really, the reports came from the floor to the committee. So where there are non-disclosure issues, we check the substance and the legal form and find that in order not to cause paralysis, this money be appropriated. That's what we pray. However, let's all be informed that the committee does work on behalf of Parliament. So we bring our report and the Parliament will take a decision. So we are not a dictatorship. So
can we first hear from the minister on that? What does the law say about giving your budget estimates to Parliament vis-a-vis appropriation? And what are you going to do as a ministry? Are you going to give money to the entities that they did not ask for?
Right Honorable Speaker, budgeting is a process. And right now we are at the tail end of the process. For me, I wonder how at this stage we pick a figure which has not been in our first budget called Satura, second budget called Satura, neither in our minutes of the engagements we have had in this parliament. So to me that figure is irregular and we can deal with it in that regard.
So we pass the budget and you have to deal it administratively. I am asking, you are not the ones to answer me.
Madam Speaker, the debate can continue as we consult on how to deal with it.
Honorable Salira.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I am shocked that the Minister for Finance can even think about a debate continuing on this matter. What we are talking about is a constitutional issue. So how are we going to proceed when there is a flagrant violation of the Constitution? And I would like to invite the Minister for Finance to address his mind specifically to Article 156 of the Constitution. Address your mind to Article 156 of the Constitution. Address your mind to Section 14 of the Public Finance Management Act. Contextualize those two legal provisions with the submission you are making. There is a fundamental flaw that must be addressed. Because you see, if you don't address it, then we are going to have a constitutional crisis. So I want to ask that you address it, Right Honourable Speaker, on the position raised in the minority regarding allocations that have no foundation in terms of budgetary estimates and how the figures found their way here in light of the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act.
Yes, Chair.
Right Honorable, not all these corporations require funding from government. Now, the ones which require funding are those who are under subvention. They earn money from some activities. So the law requires them to submit their entire budget. Now, how does it come in? while the sectors were interrogating, they found it necessary to allocate some monies to this corporation.
To the subventions.
As subventions. And that came to this floor. It was debated and adopted. So that's what comes for allocation. So how the debate went on at that time is what the debate led to recommending those allocations.
Thank you. I am now opening the debate. I will start with the, for 20 minutes. I will start with Mehdi. There is a procedural matter.
Madam Speaker, at the beginning or during the presentation of the report, you made guidance that these reports are informative. And you also stated that nothing will change.
I think you had it
like
wrong.
That's why I want clarification, so that when we debate, we know where we are going. Madam Speaker, when we debate, in light of the rules that are provided in our rules of procedure, specifically Rule 151 and 152, this debate is supposed to inform how we supply. The debate we take here is supposed to inform how we supply the figures to specific votes in response to the concerns raised by the members. So where, for example, the members have concern that a certain sector, I will give the example of the current trend, the intern doctors are not provided for in the final figures presented by the budget committee. And the entire debate points to that direction, that the House wants more money to be added there and some money deducted. How will we proceed if we are not going to have powers to vary anything in this report? Madam Speaker, that should be quite clear, brought to us.
The issue of the interns.
Madam Speaker, it's not only the it's not
I am answering question by question.
Right, Honorable. With the available funding provided for interns is 10.8 billion shillings. But the required, the ideal, is about 80 billion shillings. So I am again being informed. I think the minister can clarify on that matter, because
Chair, can you submit?
Right, Honorable. Among other issues which needed harmonization and reconciliation, we didn't receive as a committee any issue on interns. I'm saying among other issues that came from the floor, which were critical, the issue of interns did not arise. But however, funds were provided for the interns.
Honorable Chair, the issue of the interns was in the report of the Committee of Health, which was discussed and referred to Budget Committee. The issue of interns is a very, very, very serious matter. It's a very serious matter, and it was referred to your committee.
Okay, thank you for the guidance. So what we can say, the committee was able to allocate 10 billion, but we are allocating among competing priorities. So the flow here, what I would like to correct is, it's not that nothing can change in this report. This is a report to the floor. And the speakers to allow.
Madam Speaker, the point of order I'm relating is related to
Honorable Jonathan, the minister has some good information.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, indeed the issue of the interns and the SHOs is very, very vital and a big concern. A petition came to your office. You pass it over to the committee. The members of parliament are also concerned. As Minister of Health, we are also concerned. The information I have is as cabinet, and through the Right Honorable Prime Minister here, we discussed it. And we agreed. My members of cabinet are here because it is of very big concern that finance by end of this week, we have 22 billion that is in areas for the interns that had already done their work. We have an outstanding of 80 billion for 1,091 interns that are yet to be deployed. As a minister, 1,091 to be exact, and the senior house officers. As of now, as a ministry, we have already prepared and we are ready to deploy the 1,091 in our 51 sites of deployment. Minister of Finance rightly saying we have provided 10 billion, which you rightly said is not enough. What is it now? The commitment by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Kasajja, and with all the members of cabinet having discussed the issue, committed himself that by end of this week, he is going to look for this money. I am giving information to the budget. I am giving information to the Minister of Finance here who was there, that as a ministry, we are waiting for this money and we deploy the interns. So I thank you so much.
Honorable members, as we get the areas, we need what is sustainable for the whole period. So that's why we need to have it budgeted sufficiently. We need sufficient budgeting for the interns. Let's clear the 22 billion, which is supposed to be paid by end of this week. That is the areas. But we also need the money in the budget to sustain the whole stay of the interns. Yes. Now, members, when you take me on two procedures, then we shall not debate. If you want to debate, don't go into procedure. Just debate. Avur, what is your issue?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we are appropriating for the financial year 2023-2024. And Right Honorable Speaker, I did listen to the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health, raising a critical concern about interns. Right Honorable Speaker, when we budget based on some figures, which the Ministry of Health does not have. They do not know the number of interns. They do not even know the number that comes out, put into the labor market every academic year that comes out of various universities. Therefore, would it be, will we be proceeding right Honorable Speaker? Right Honorable Speaker, I need your protection.
Honorable members, sit.
And
Honorable Vur, this House passed a report on health. A petition was brought to my office and we referred it to the Committee of Health. There are 1,900 interns, and we know the figures that they are talking about. The 80 billion that they are mentioning is money that was returned in the last financial year. But the number of interns is known. Yes, Mehdi? Mehdi, Herbert.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, 2 minutes.
And honorable members. Honorable members, I rise up definitely to issue and air out the views of the people in Kampala Metropolitan about the state of our infrastructure and its reflection in the national budget estimates that we have. As a House, we are here debating the same matter. The President has aired out his views, and also honorable members. I don't need to go back because the reflection or the mirror is outside there for all of us to see, that our capital city and its metropolitan, to include Mokono, Wakiso, etc. is in a dire state. Whereas we contribute about 65% of the GDP of this nation, the reflection in form of benefit from the allocation is really still very meager. I've heard the proposals by the budget committee for an extra 33 billion. Yes, we can't say no. The Baganda say, and I quote Nyamantono Kayaneri Munkwawa, that even the little I said I quote, yes, I said I quote, and the little that you have, you can make argument when you first hold it. So when we get hold of it, yes, we appreciate, but we need more. And again, we are back to square one, Honorable Minister of Finance, the Honorable Musasizi, that an extra 33 billion cannot cater for new road reconstructions, not even maintenance of the drainage from the metropolitan. I know my friend Honorable Semuju from Kira, where most of you reside, I think including Honorable Musasizi. But I've seen you there attending some ceremonies. Don't hide. So the reality is that we all
Honorable Medi, you want to say that my members cannot reside in the central?
Oh no, they reside, including the Right Honorable Speaker who resides nearby the premises of Parliament. But the reality is our infrastructure is in dire state. And the provision for our infrastructure is really meager. If we want to collect more, we must demonstrate to the taxpayers that as they pay more taxes, we have a return towards them in form of services.
Thank you.
33 billion additional is a starting point, but it's meager. You have the non-aligned movement where you're going to host over 90 leaders, heads of state. Look at the state of the road of Salama. Look at the state of all the roads in Kampala. It's dire. Let's share this responsibility in order to demonstrate to our countrymen that we care when they pay their taxes, we care, and we respond in the form of services. The state of Chirudu Hospital, etc. And finally, the ICT sector. Nothing provided for. It is dire. We are talking about unemployment, but if we want to curb the issue of unemployment, let us respond more to the ICT sector that can help our people perform work remotely, enhance students to do their work remotely, use the internet infrastructure very well, and we promote employment that we cannot give them. Today we are talking of interns in the medical field. Tomorrow we will be talking about interns in the education sector, interns in the engineering sector, and the Pandora open to that extent. We might come back crying the next time.
Thank
so,
you.
Honorable members, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for
Thank
the time
you.
allocated to me.
Albert.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we have had the report, the majority report and the minority report. Right Honorable Speaker, the discretionary amount for spending in the coming financial year is 25.16 trillion. And this has been reduced by the minority report of 7.55 trillion, 17.6 trillion. Right Honorable Speaker, the report of the committee did not go further to make an analysis that out of this 17.61 trillion, how much is for consumptive expenditure and how much is for investment expenditure. Because if we have discretionary expenditure of 17 trillion and we have consumptive expenditure of the same amount and nothing money will be put into investment, then this country is not going very far. We need an analysis to know how much is consumptive, how much will be spent in travel abroad, how much is going to be spent on workshops, and we see, and then we know how much is the investment that will propel the growth of this country. Otherwise, what Honorable Mushe was saying, that we are showing a rosy picture, but what is felt in our pockets, in our communities, is not there. It's because we are looking at the description expenditure of 17.5 trillion, which is going to be spent in conservative expenditure. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
ICT, correct the name on the screen, is called Taeva Herbert. It's Taeva Herbert. Eddie.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I want to appreciate the committee for working around the clock to make sure that this report is presented. Right Honorable Speaker, I have looked through both the recurrent expenditure and the budget, and I have seen a number of universities. Last year, but one, government took over Busoga University as a public university. Right Honorable Speaker, as we appropriate, I don't see any reflection of Busoga University, whereas we appreciate what the government is doing to make sure that education is implemented, especially higher education. But Busoga as a region doesn't have any public university. So I'm calling upon government to come up and explain to us why Busoga University has been dropped. It doesn't reflect anywhere in this budget. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Solomon Silwanyi.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the
Madam Speaker, yesterday we identified an irregularity which relates to the certificate of financial implication that should have accompanied the core agenda, and today the matter was addressed. Today we are observing from the reports that there is non-compliance with the law, the Constitution, and Presidential Emoluments and Benefits Act. And my colleague who just submitted earlier on has clearly highlighted the disparity in figures in relation to the discretionary amount available in this budget. Madam Speaker, these are all matters which require time to examine. The member on the floor is going to debate a report of a committee which debate has not complied with the Rule 204, which requires that for a report of a committee on a bill to be debated, it must be laid and actually uploaded on the systems at least 3 days before. And the members attempting to do this when the speaker has not exercised her discretion in accordance with the same rule, Rule 204, 6A, B. So, is the member in order to continue to debate when we are not proceeding in accordance with the rule?
Which member were you saying? But it's not the only one who has debated. Even the report has been presented, and I gave a ruling and said, let's have a debate on this. And if you want us to say we are suspending the rule, and let's have a debate and pass the bill. I mean pass the budget. It is not entrenched. So you suspend it. Get up and suspend. Move a motion.
Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, bearing in mind, sometimes courts have ruled against bills that are passed by this Parliament for failure to comply with the rules. I therefore move in accordance with Rule 16 that Rule 204 be suspended to allow debate to proceed so that we are compliant with the law. I beg to move.
Is it seconded? Seconded? It is seconded by the whole House. Let the debate continue now.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to support the majority report, and I want to thank the committee for the elaborate report that they have presented. And my issues, Right Honourable Speaker, are basically in health. Right Honourable Speaker, when you look at the allocation to Ministry of Health and to different referral hospitals, it does not depict what is on ground, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, Mulago National Referral Hospital is in dire state, but when you look at the amount of money that has been given to Mulago, that has been given to the different regional referral hospitals, it is not commensurate to what Ugandans need. Right Honourable Speaker, this Parliament should allay itself to the truth and the facts on ground that we need to sort out the health sector in this country, Right Honourable Speaker. And the only time we can sort out the health sector is budgeting. We are talking about the intern medical doctors who are doing a lot of work, Right Honourable Speaker, but even the infrastructure in the hospitals, the medicine. When you look at the budget, when you compare the budget that is going to Ministry of Defense, the budget that is going to different sectors and health, you find that there is a lot of money, Right Honourable Speaker, going to defense than the Ministry of Health. I think, Right Honourable Speaker, we should prioritize health, because the health for our community, the health for the population, a healthy country is definitely a strong country, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I therefore want to propose that when we reach the committee stage, when we are relocating, some monies be removed from other sectors that are not very vital, and we transfer, Right Honourable, to the health sector.
Honourable.
Thank you very much, Honourable colleague, for giving way to give information to the health sector.
No.
As the Shadow Minister of Health.
Sit. Can you finish? Have you finished? He's giving him as who are you the speaker?
Right Honourable Speaker.
You're going to speak.
Right Honourable Speaker, those are the basic issues I wanted to mention, Right Honourable Speaker, that we do relocations because this Parliament has power to save this country. This Parliament has power to give the health sector of the Republic of Uganda money, Right Honourable Speaker. I beg to submit.
Honourable Member, Honourable Musasisi, the Minister, what the Honourable Member is saying, much as we are going to pass the budget, we have a challenge, especially in the health sector. When you look at issues like those entities that you appropriated to when they didn't need money, you as finance have powers. This House is going to pass a resolution that the money should be reallocated in finance to those sectors that need money more. Yes.
Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, I want to commit that if Parliament passes a resolution that we look for money to finance the health sector from within this budget, we shall comply with the resolution of Parliament.
Thank you. And you need to comply and make sure that the money is reallocated to health, Cancer Institute, Mulago. There are some wasteful expenditures that you can see in this budget. What you need to do is to do reallocation. Yes.
Madam Speaker, Doctor, I don't need to be informed on this subject. Madam Speaker, yes, like I will be making some observations as we conclude. I agree with you. There are some areas where some more work needs to be done, and we shall do the work with a view of funding the most critical areas, particularly health.
Honorable Asuman.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I want to thank you. I recall you had asked the Chief Whip to invite the Attorney General here. I don't know whether the Chief Whip is also acting Attorney General, because the issue, oh, my brother has come, Honourable Kafuzi. Right, Honourable Speaker, when you look at the report, and I want to draw the attention of the House to page 63. Page 63, Right Honourable Speaker, on the allocation to the Ministry of Ethics, Directorate of Ethics and Integrity. Right Honourable Speaker, there is funding to a tune of 8.5 billion, and the justification is funding of pornography control committee activities. Right Honourable Speaker, the Constitutional Court has nullified the offense of pornography. The Attorney General has not appealed. There is nothing to control or to work on by that committee because the offense is not there. It was declared unconstitutional. That is the case of Center for Domestic Violence Prevention and 8 others, Constitutional Petition number 13 of 2014. And now here, we are allocating 4.5 billion to that committee to do work for a non-existent offense. Right Honourable Speaker, obviously at an appropriate time, I'm going to bring a private member's bill. Because you know, sometimes they are reluctant to. I want to alert Right Honourable Speaker at the House that this committee is virtually redundant. There is no offense, and this money, the 4.5 billion, is available for some other thing. Finally, from me, Right Honourable Speaker, from this report, when you look at page 89, that's under vote 166. National Council of Sports has been given 47.4 billion. And in the report, the chairperson, the report talks about ring fencing. Unfortunately, in the annex, where the ring fence is supposed to be clarified as a detail, it is silent on it. In the report, you are talking about ring fencing. In the schedules, particularly Schedule A, there is no ring fencing indicated. And that's very important because, Right Honourable Speaker, we have discussed ring fencing here for sports. And if you just make a mention in the body and in the annexure, you are quiet about it, there is a problem. It is something that must be clarified, and once it is clarified, the money should also be released. Yes, so Right Honourable Speaker, I want to propose that the ring fence you talk about in page 89, and you say the details are in the schedules. In fact, you mentioned schedules. When you look at the schedules, nothing is mentioned. What you talk about under page 89 should be reflected in specific terms in the schedules as your report states, and the Hansard should be able to capture it. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honorable Chair, can you guide us on what is ring fenced under Schedule 5?
Right Honorable, the whole schedule indicates how that money should be spent. That's what we mean by ring fencing it. So all of it is ring fenced to those particular areas. Now, the lawyer here is guiding us that we could make an amendment to the report, which I concede, so that it is strengthened the spirit at which it's being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. So the amendment is that Schedule Annex 5 it should be in line with the report. Should be read together with the report on ring fencing. Is that what the mover wants?
Right, Honourable Speaker, the annexures ought to be attached, but also on Schedule A, where there is recurrent budget estimates, and particularly page 89 that I mentioned. When you look at that vote, the 46.9 billion, this is where the annex should have indicated the ring fencing. So it should be attached and read as one and the same with this report, and that the Hansard should be able to capture that.
So the vote should be read, vote 166 should be read together with the annex.
Yes, the annexure.
Annexure 5 on the ring fencing.
Yes.
And he has considered, that's okay, thank you.
No, I have made a proposal for amendment
Doctor.
and you have considered, yes.
Right Honourable Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to the budget. First and foremost, I thank the minority group for their report that has ably pointed out a major issue in the health sector, and that is to do with the interns and SHOs. Right Honourable Speaker, we are gathered here this morning believing that we have a right to act on these budget estimates. We have decided to vacate the position or the impression that has been created that ours is only a duty to rubber stamp whatever has been brought before us. In that belief, Right Honourable Speaker, and as the Minister of Finance was also proposing that money be located somewhere and provided for the allowances of the interns and SHOs, I've looked at vote 167. That is the one to do with science, technology, and innovation. In that vote, there is 37 billion that is allocated to classified budget, specifically looking at logistical support and security. They can get the logistical support and security that is classified in nature from another agency that is handling even a bigger classified budget in the President's office, where actually this ministry resides. So this 37 billion, together with the 70 billion still in the same vote, which is for Day Biopharma Factory. This is a privately owned pharmaceutical industry that is presumed that it will manufacture pharmaceutical products, vaccines, for the benefit of Ugandans who can pay and buy. Now, for the time being, the pharmaceutical needs of Ugandans are catered for in the National Medical Stores vote. So we feel Day Biopharma Factory can still get money from Uganda Development Bank and the Uganda Development Corporation. And if that is the case for this financial year, then these 70 billion can be redirected and also brought to the interns and SHOs. So in total, it will be 107 billion. That 107 billion will pay for the intern doctors, intern good medics. It will pay for the SHOs and the outstanding. That is the decision this House should take today, such that we exercise our right. It should not be a duty, but a right. If we do not do that, this is the implication. This will be the budget that will totally collapse the health sector service delivery in this country. Ugandans, when they're in hospitals, they buy medicine.
The decision has already been taken. Money is going to be given to health. Cow.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I've looked at the budget. I want to thank the Minister for accepting some flaws in the budget. I've looked at on page 86, development budget for local governments. Colleagues, we are all aware, we all come from local governments. They operate in very poor infrastructure. Some of them have no even where to sit. To me, I believe that the budget allocation given is insufficient. There should be some kind of level of improving on that budget. We also have an issue of cities. You have had our colleague of Kampala City Council. The scenario is the same all over the country. How I wish that the Minister of Finance and the committee should look at a way or means of improving on that budget. But I've also observed the minister is saying we have noted and we are going to improve. I believe the mandate of improving, of reallocation, should not be given to the ministry. Should be by a committee. Because I don't see how you can relocate yourself when at the same time you are the one who made the proposal. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, as we discuss this budget, let's also be mindful of the resource envelope. Let's not talk like we have it all. JB.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to commend and thank the committee for the budget report. Right Honorable Speaker, my concern is on at page 60 of the report of the committee. Specifically where there's going to be a shift and transfer of the road fund. There's a recommendation there in the column where all the road fund is being transferred to KCCA. The periodic to KCCA, yes. That's under vote 118, the Uganda Road Fund. The justification, there's a transfer of about 66 billion is going to be transferred to KCCA roads and drainage maintenance. Right Honorable Speaker, the road fund has been one thing that is helping us hold on to some of our roads which are not tarmacked in most of the districts up-country. This is totally unacceptable to transfer this money. Our roads right now are equally clogged and suffering with a lot of these drainage issues. These are Maram roads. This is murder to us, Right Honorable Speaker, that our roads we shall totally be impassable. So I want to appeal to the committee to reverse this decision. I know there's a proposal to have the allocation of 1 billion, but that is even not sufficient, which is proposed by government. Even the man, if you look at the releases,
JB,
yes.
There is allocation of 1 billion. How much did you require? How much would be sufficient? No, I'm saying how much would be sufficient.
In a district, would even need 2 billion to maintain these roads.
And where do we get the 2 billion?
So what we are saying, Right Honorable
Give us
Speaker,
where we can get the money, then we can even allocate you 5 billion.
what I'm appealing, Right Honorable Speaker, is
Give
that
us
let the
where the money can come from.
That's okay. The money for the road fund has been there in the budget. Let's maintain the money for the road fund as we wait for the 1 billion. That's my appeal, Right Honorable Speaker.
Right Honorable and colleagues, the clarification I would do.
The clarification.
I would like to clarify that
Honorable members, listen.
there was a resolution There was a
We had a resolution in this house
resolution in the house.
that every district should be given 1 billion shillings
Yes.
straight to the local government. The
Yes.
problem, most of you don't come to the house. The resolution, the money for the rural fund, rural road fund is intact. But this one of 1 billion going to each district is there, is what they have sent. It is out of a resolution of this house.
Honorable Speaker, you are perfectly correct. We resolved to allocate each district 1 billion on top of what the districts have got in the road fund. Now, you'll get a district like Tambala, let me be exact, has been getting about 380 billion before the provision.
Million.
308 million in the road fund for road maintenance for the district. Our resolution that on top of that, each district gets an additional 1 billion going forward annually for road maintenance. Now, the argument of members is that in the best...
Honorable, on top of that getting the 1 billion, but the 1 billion goes to the local government.
Yes.
Which all of you are either chairpersons of the road committee or whichever. Now, that's where you need to exercise your oversight role. Oversight role. But if you're going to receive this money and just sleep on your duty, then the problem is you, the leaders.
The argument of the member is that the money in the base that has been used by the road fund to provide that money that has been in the base is being reduced by 66 billion to cater for roads in Kampala. To cater for roads in Kampala. Now, what the Parliament can decide is that we have given 1 billion and taken away the other 300, 500 districts have been having. The argument of the members is that government, we have an urgent need to address the infrastructure in Kampala. Kampala said they needed 800 billion annually.
Honorable Medi, have respect for the
Yes.
minister.
The KCC has said they needed 800 billion annually allocation for the next 10 years to be able to fix the road infrastructure. But the argument of the members is that the money the district has been having should stay intact and we add on the 1 billion. Government must find a way of consistently funding the infrastructure in Kampala and the neighboring district in a Marshall Plan that will, for once and for all, address the infrastructure, because even in the 30, even if you take the 60 out of 100, it will not be able to fix the challenge.
Honorable Medi.
Thank you, honorable
There
members.
is a procedural matter first.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to raise on a procedural matter. When you look at the budget, Right Honorable Speaker, there is a government policy that was passed in this country, Right Honorable Speaker, and has always been debated in this parliament, that every sub-county is going to have a seed school and every sub-county should have a health center, Right Honorable Speaker. But when you look at the budget, Right Honorable Speaker, there are areas where you find that one sub-county. Can you allow me to drive my point?
Honorable member, the member is on procedure. We are debating the budget.
Yes. Right
We are
Honorable
debating
Speaker,
the budget. Each person has his views. You proceed.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the protection and the wise judgment. Right Honorable Speaker, the procedural matter I'm raising, when you look at the budget, there are areas where one sub-county is having like 2 seed schools, a seed school, a health center, upgrade of health centers. Yes, some areas and constituencies totally have nothing, Right Honorable Speaker. Therefore, the procedural matter I'm raising, would it be procedural right Honorable Speaker, at this stage, to allow us at least every constituency to relocate instead of having 2 in one constituency, that each constituency gets, Right Honorable Speaker. For example, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to propose.
Listen.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to propose